Rising rates continue taking their toll on mortgage demand.
Interest rates are high. It's a tough market.
Of course, rates are higher than anyone wants.
You're a top 10 mortgage lender in the United States, number one in the US, over 7,000 transactions. You've done over $5 billion in sales. You closed like 500 or 800 million in 2020, way before you got in social.
No, I did over 800 million in 2020 without any social media.
Yeah, you could have said, I don't really need it, but instead you kind of said, hey, let me check this out, kind of jump on it and see how to take it.
To me, I'm like, why don't I know these people? And how do I get them to know me? Is it Instagram? Is it ads? Is it billboards? Is it just picking up the phone and calling people? And I'm always thinking of ways to kind of get out there. People think, man, you must be getting all your business from social. The reality is, I don't. I use it as a platform to kind of learn and kind of pass it on to someone else. You have to take the time out. It's hard. I mean, it's not easy. Life goes super quick. My kids are 10, 9, and 8, and my 10-year-old to me feels like, an adult. You have to make time for things in your life that are important, because if you don't, you're gonna regret it later on.
So, Brian, I appreciate you coming and joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me today. Kind of excited to be here and look forward to your questions that I don't know what you're asking. So, all good.
So, you're a top 10 mortgage lender in the United States, number one in the US, over 7,000 transactions. You've done over $5 billion in sales, probably well over. So someone can look at that and they could see all of the success, but what would I need to know about your earlier years in life to understand how you were shaped and molded in that environment to who you became today?
That's a great question. I think it takes time, right? I think that no one starts out as a little kid and says, hey, I want to be a mortgage person, right? It just doesn't exist. It's doctor, it's lawyer, it's whatever it is, but it's not mortgage salesperson. Is never typically in someone's vocabulary. And when I was younger, I didn't know what I want to do, and so many people now I'm older, it's still, I talk to people all the time, and they're in this business, and at times they're like, well, maybe I don't want to be in this business anymore. What am I going to do next? I think for me, one of the things I can say is I always liked meeting people. I always liked building the relationship. I like the joy of people to get them in the home. And I think for myself, I'm self-motivated, right? I don't need people to say, yay, Brian, you're number 1 or number 10 or whatever it is. It's just my goals have always been to continuously building my business and to meet more people and to help other people. I'm at the point in my career where I take calls all the time. They say, well, what do you think about this? Or how do I do this? And I'm happy to talk to people because I was that person, 19 years ago when I started in the mortgage business.
So I was curious, that's a good topic, because you started in 2004, I believe.
I did.
And well over 7,000 transactions. You mentioned like people might kind of, people often in the real estate space, they think of what's next, or how do you stay like enamored with like helping people with this and not necessarily seek towards, let me just leave mortgages and start something new? How do you keep that joy and not want to like jump ship and like burn out, get tired of the business?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is continuously keeping up with the times, right? Like from people that had a BlackBerry phone, I was guilty of I never wanted to get rid of my BlackBerry, right? I was really good with my thumbs, and then came the iPhone. I was never good with change, right? So when it went from taking applications, we would take loan applications on, blank 1003s on big pieces of paper. Now we're in a digital world where people can text message me, they can go on the website, and it takes 10 minutes, right? I think evolving with the times is exciting to me. I think speed, although I'm in New York City and speed is not in New York, but in other markets in Florida where I'm licensed or New Jersey where I'm licensed, we can close a loan in a week, right? That's crazy to me. It feels like it's almost like loans on demand where we are able to help a client. We roll out same day mortgage, all these kind of things that I never thought would be possible, right? 19
Hmm.
years ago when I started, we didn't even do purchases. When I started in 2004, I worked for a company who's no longer in business. It was called AmeriQuest Mortgages. We did refinancing only. I didn't do a purchase until 2007. So for 3 years,
Wow.
I was only doing business with people that were refinancing. It was crazy. It was a different world. Now my business is, 95% of people that are purchasing properties versus refinancing. So for me, I think the joy is one, still meeting great people, always important. Two, hearing from my customers and their stories and seeing my name be passed around from client to client saying, hey, he did a great job. Try my guy. Call this guy, right? And I think that it's just been consistent. And I love meeting new people. I mean, people like you, Andrew. I mean, 19 years ago, I don't know how old you were, but we didn't know each other. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I was 10 years old.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. It's awesome.
it's crazy. Is that why, like, because I've seen you've done videos with Serhant and you jumped really big on the video train, like TikTok, you have 19 or 20,000 followers. Is that why you got into video?
So video is interesting. So I came from a big bank background. After AmeriQuest, I was recruited to Wells Fargo in 2006. I was there for 15 years. Wells Fargo is an amazing company. They're great. Their mortgage platform is dominant. But at a bank, they have a lot of restrictions for social media, and everything is kind of,
Yeah.
you need to follow this guideline, and you can do a little bit of social media, but you have to choose one of these pre-scripted options. And I never did it. And while I was there at Wells Fargo, I mean, I had an amazing 15 years. But part of me was like, well, where can I take my business to the next step if I was doing, call it video or social media, or I was doing other things that were outside the box that we weren't allowed to do, call it in full force. So I've been on social media for a little over a year. I started in March 2022. So a little over a year. And it's been very interesting for me. I'm a people person. Like I can talk to you all day long.
Hmm.
And I think the results that I was hoping for weren't automatic, right? People think,
Yep.
and I talk to people at big banks all the time, or people that aren't on social, and they're like, man, you must be getting all your business from social. And the reality is, I don't. I'm not a real estate agent, so I don't have a property to sell or to show you my fancy couch or my pool or my windows. So I'm all about education. I think education is super important. So I use it as a platform for my real estate agents and referral partners and past clients and friends and family and whoever else is following to kind of learn and kind of pass it on to someone else and say, oh, well, I just learned this, or did you know this? And that's really what I've been using it for. So I am now seeing the power of social media, which before I didn't need it, and I can take it or leave it. And for people out there, some people, all their business is from social media. Mine's not still. Mine's still kind of boots on the ground and relationship building. But I like the extra outlet of getting to talk to people and meeting new people, and I get to talk to people all over the world now that I never had that outreach. My business has always been in a small market, just with great people.
Which is crazy to say because you say small market, but I think you closed like 500 or 800 million in 2020. So way before you got in social.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, no, I did. Yeah, over 800 million in 2020 without any social media. Yeah, no.
so it's like, yeah, you could have chalked it up and you could have said, I don't really need it. But instead, you kind of said, hey, let me check this out, kind of jump on it and see how to take it.
Exactly. Yeah, I wanted to see what it was all about, and I think that with kind of the modern technology and kind of what we're dealing with now, so many people are on it. I mean, everywhere I go, people are just looking at their phones. I'm guilty of the same, but people spend so much time on it that people do get business from it. People do learn from it. I know for me, I'm guilty of looking up things on YouTube or TikTok. be it a recipe, an exercise, whatever it is. There's so much information out there that people are learning from it. And my message is I just hope people learn from it. And I'm a big believer in always doing the right thing. I'm not a person who's like a tricky mortgage person. I'm a straight shooter, and I want people to learn from it. And hopefully more people know who I am and can recommend me. Is the end is the goal, but takes time.
So, what's your strategy? I know you said education, like educating clients, potential clients, and then your referral partners. Like when you think through like the videos that you're creating and the strategy that you're putting out on social, what goes through your mind?
I think everyday scenarios. So like this morning, I text messaged myself. We get common questions, right? So the common questions are, what are people asking? What do they want to know? And sometimes it's what I want them to know as well, right? So it's a little bit of both. So I'm constantly thinking of what people want to know, what agents are asking, what my clients are asking, kind of just keep it top of mind on topics that I think is relevant to people looking to buy homes right now.
So right now, like interest rates are high, buyers are kind of like on the fence, but there's still demand, and it's a really it's a tough, interesting market. So like, what are your problems that you're experiencing and the stuff that you're trying to answer with your videos?
Yeah, so a lot of problems. So I think the problems is one, of course, rates are higher than anyone wants, right? So it's all
Yeah,
about how do we combat interest rates? And there are creative ways, right? If you go online, you see these 2-1 buy downs, you see seller options, you see assuming, other people's mortgage. There's so many different options out there. And some of the frustration I have is that we talk about it all the time, or, in New York, mortgage tax is a big closing cost, and we talk about how to use that closing cost to buy down interest rates or to assign it to somebody else. And I feel like I say it all the time, but no one listens, right? Until I actually have to bring it up. Like I have real estate agents buying a property today, and I was like, "Hey, does the seller have a mortgage?" He's like, "Why?" I was like, "Did you not?" I'm like, "You gave me a heart emoji on Instagram on my story." I was like, "What's going? Like, you can save $30,000." And he's like, "Oh yeah, you're right." But people just forget, right? So I think that part of it is staying top of mind. Sometimes I post the same video because I'm like, guys, this is important. Why are we not seeing more of it? And also, what I would tell you is, how do we get over the hurdles and get people comfortable with what's happening in the market? And there's a lot happening, right? It's highest interest rate in 22 years. That's part of it, but also part of it is monthly payment is super important. That people kind of think, yes, I get it. Like interest rates equivalent to monthly payment. But there's so many times when we talk to clients and I say, hey, your monthly payment is going to be $4,000 a month. And like, that's great. Then they hang up the phone, like, I can do this. I'm buying the property. And 2 days later, like, wait, what's the rate? I'm like, well, this is the rate. But I think about it as so many people have, I have a car lease. I don't know the interest rate on my car lease. I make my
yeah, I
monthly
have no
payment.
clue.
How much is it a month? That's it. Tell me the payment. And I think that people have to be comfortable with that. And my other biggest problem is cash. I mean, cash is my competitor, right? It's historically it's been, hey, the mortgage guy, the mortgage company, the mortgage girl is going to take too long. Make your offer cash. Well, in my market right now, on new developments, 72% of buyers are paying cash, the
Wow.
highest in history. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then on resales, it's about 55 to 60%. So I'm competing with people that have a lot of cash in my market, which is really hard. So how do you compete with cash? I'm still working on that, Andrew. Still working.
That's interesting because I saw you talk about like knowing your product, and that's like one of the main pillars that's like really big to you is really knowing, because there's lots of different products and being able to confidently talk about that.
Yeah.
Um, and you're so you talk about payment to move them away from interest rate. Is that where your idea for like your viral TikToks came? Is to kind of like break it down to the monthly?
You know what? From the TikTok aspect, I feel like so many people don't know how much it costs to borrow money, and we get it all the time. I get people who either think they can qualify for less, and really they can borrow a lot more, or I get people who can qualify for a lot less and think they can borrow more, right? So I like doing the breakdowns of, how much can people borrow based on what income, or how much money do you need to make to buy this property. It helps kind of set, a realistic expectation, because sometimes people, look at properties that they just can't afford, or they want to buy something but they don't do the due diligence up front by either getting pre-approved or figuring out, hey, can I pass a co-op board or something of that nature, because it's very different what I get approved, but what they may not get passed on, certain buildings in New York City. So doing it, I just hope it helps people realize that, hey, this is an idea of how much money you make and what realistically you may be able to borrow. And I think it's caught on a little bit, is what I would say.
Okay. And so you don't do just like traditional videos, like you're not just sitting there talking to the camera all the time. Like I've seen you out, I think, in the Hamptons. Was that the beach in the background?
Yeah, so I'm all over. So I'm licensed in a bunch of states. I do work all over, but a lot of my business. So that beach was actually Florida. So
Okay.
but I was in the Hamptons last week too. We shot some content. I don't think it posted yet, but yeah, I'm out and about because you have to be. You have to be in the market. I like knowing inventory. I like chatting with the agents, see what they're seeing, and I like seeing the properties. I think it's super helpful. So when I talk to clients, I know, hey, I was at this building. Oh, I saw that property. I think it helps understand certain things. I also see a lot of properties because clients are like, hey, do we need a gut renovation? Do we need a renovation loan? So I look at properties all the time and say, oh, well, maybe we can finance this as is, or hey, no, you do need a full renovation. So it's very helpful for me. And I cover a lot of different markets.
Okay. And so when it comes to like you trying to stay in relationship, because you've built this like huge deep network and relationships of past business, and it shows because you have a 96% satisfaction rate and 88% net promoter score. So how do you specifically keep up with those relationships, keep them alive, like without being salesy and annoying, and just being there to help them?
It's hard. So I'm sure some people tell me I'm annoying, but in reality, I'm not the hard sales pitch kind of person. I like to let my work speak for itself, and my work meaning that behind me I have a team of amazing support staff and people that work with me for years, and they're great at what they do, right? And we understand the client's position, which I think is half the battle, and I don't treat every transaction like it's a business transaction. Like, I've made so many friends and personal connections with my clients that I would have never thought. Like, I've been invited to so many housewarming parties or kids' birthday parties, and it's awesome. Like, I love going. So I think that's really part of it, where you don't treat it like a transaction. You treat it like a relationship. And it's very hard because all the clients treat me like, what's your rate, what's your rate, what's your rate? And that's all that matters. But it's not all that matters sometimes, because I'm in a complex market. So I'm talking to you today in my office. I'm in the West Village in New York City. New York City is one of the hardest markets for mortgages, I would say, because of the complexity of our collateral, right? Co-ops, they don't exist everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Condos, we're approving the building and we're approving the buyer. It's not, when I get a single family house, oh my gosh, I love it. So it's a very different market.
So I want to get into like your team in a little bit, but I do want to talk about the attention that you give to clients, because you're doing all these deals, and how do you make sure you give that 150% to each client when you're doing such a high volume, and you give them that like undivided attention?
Yeah. So attention in relationships is very important to me, where I want to make sure when people want my time, I'm available. I hold my cell phone in my hand. I'll take the call anytime somebody calls. I had someone call me Sunday night at 9 o'clock, and she's like, you disappeared. I haven't talked to you. I was like, you haven't called me once. I was like, what did you need? So I let my team do their job, and they do it really well. But I'm here throughout the whole process. Every client starts with me. I talk to every single one of the clients. And I think I'm here for them to make sure that they have a good experience, or if there's a problem, right? Sometimes home buying can be stressful. And my experience is, stay calm. We'll get through it because I've seen it all. Any mortgage problem, every house problem. I'm not really shook when someone's like, "Oh, this happened." I'm like, "Okay, we got it. Like, let's figure it out. Like, there are options. Don't worry, we got it." So I make myself available. I love talking to people, and I think that sometimes people don't want the attention, and other people do. I tell people all the time that so many people don't want to meet their mortgage person anymore, right? So I used to work in an office in Brooklyn, and it's a condo building. We had the retail space in the condo building. I did a loan for someone upstairs, and I was like, "Hey, just come downstairs, bring me your paperwork. We'll have a drink at my Keurig machine, and we'll hang out for a little bit." And he's like, "No, I'll email it to you later." I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "I promise, I'm a nice guy." Nobody really wants to meet a mortgage person. Is the bottom line. People just want to know what your rate, and they want things done quick. So I'll tell you that people don't want as much time as you think, but I have the time. I love to talk to people. I work 7 days a week. If you need me, I'm available on the weekends. So that's it.
So I do want to talk about like the over communication, like the process that you have, but I want to ask, is there a cost of that? Like, is there a cost to giving your clients that open freedom of like, hey, I'm here to talk 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on the weekends? Like, is there a cost that comes with that?
I think in the busier market, there was a work-life quality of life balance issue that I had. I have 3 kids, a wife, a dog, the whole bit. And it's hard, right? When I take the
Yeah.
call all day, every day. And I did it. I mean, I used to work 9 to 9 for, I'm going to say,
Wow.
17 of my 19 years doing this. And the market shifted. And now I'm at the point where I don't need to work 9 to 9. I don't have to work for 9 to 9 because we're in a very different market, high interest rates, high cash. But I miss it. I like to be busy. I'm the person who needs to be busy and needs to be active. So I think the balance now that I have, I like it. I like to be a little busier. That's why I like this job. I'm always constantly thinking of different things to do that I haven't done before. And that's marketing, it's events, it's advertising, it's meeting other people, it's going in other markets. It's while other people right now are kind of cutting staff, and we're seeing tons of real estate agents and tons of loan officers leaving the business, I'm hiring. So I'm hiring loan officers for the first time in 19 years. Have only been me. I'm now branching into other markets where I'm kind of hiring junior loan officers to kind of work relationships that I have, and that's been pretty exciting.
Nice. So, I saw like, 'cause you have 3 kids, you put in the hours now, and that you're reaping a lot of the rewards from all that time that you've put in, probably for well over a decade. Um,
Yeah.
how do you integrate, like, because for example, 29 years old, recently married, we're not having kids immediately, but like I love to work. My wife is completely different. She is a PA, dermatology, clocks in, clocks out. So 2 different mindsets. And I know that's probably a lot of people in the industry is like they're one side and maybe like their spouse is different. How do you integrate like your 3 kids, your wife, you make time for them, but also make time to run such a successful business?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think, being on the same page as your significant other or kids or whatever may be in your life, family members, parents, it's hard. I mean, it's not easy, but you have to take the time out, right? Life goes super quick. I mean, my kids are 10, 9, and 8, and my 10-year-old to me feels like, an adult, right?
Yeah.
And the great part about my job is flexibility, right? I can put an hour in my Outlook and go play catch with my son at the park, or I can go take my daughter to gymnastics or cooking class. So I think the ability of just popping out for an hour or two is really important. My wife also works a real lot. We have an amazing nanny, so that's super helpful,
Oh,
right?
nice.
But before I had kids, I think that it's just about getting on the same page, and communication is key. When I went to college, my major was communicating. I was a communication major. Everyone's like, "What are you going to do with that?" I was like, "I have no idea." Right? People are like, "Oh, you're going to be the next Howard Stern. You're going to be on TV. You're going to be a sportscaster." I'm like, "No, I'm doing mortgages." But I feel communication is the key to everything. Like for you and your wife, I think it's just about being on the same page and having a schedule. Maybe you're not going to hang out until 9 o'clock, and then you'll go out to dinner or go do your Netflix shows or whatever you're going to do. I just think it's really about communicating and making the time, even if it's 2 hours and you go to bed later, or if it's waking up earlier, or if it's having to move a meeting and say, "Hey, look, I'm available to do this." What are we on? This Riverside or Zoom, whatever. Yeah, we're on Riverside, and I can't do it from 11 to 12. I can only do it from 12 to 1. Like, just you have to make time for things in your life that are important, because if you don't, you're gonna regret it later on.
Yeah, that's good. And that kind of ties back to like what you're like uniquely skilled in, which it's kind of interesting because that communication aspect translates to everything, like your relationship, your business, and you're huge on over communication. Why is that important to you, and what do most people tend to get wrong in, like, for example, real estate or in life with communication?
I just think that, when I work with real estate agents all the time, I tell them, hey, if I give you a pre-approval, and to one of your clients, we give a lot of pre-approvals, I'm like, just pick up the phone, call me on it, because a pre-approval doesn't give you all the information that you need, right? If you look at a pre-approval, it doesn't tell me how much money the client has in post-closing reserves. It doesn't tell me the credit score on a pre-approval. So I want the agents to call me so they can get more information, and half the time I have information they don't have, and the other half of the time they have information that I don't have. So I think being on the same page in general, and that's work, that's life, that's both, is important, because if you're not communicating, you can have one person that's, that is on a very different page than the other, and I think that then creates conflict and negative energy. And I feel that as you talk to people, I'm a big problem solver, and I'm a big proponent of, I like when people are happy, right? I want to surround myself with people that are happy, not negative, people that are optimistic. Because if you surround yourself with people that are down all day long or negative on everything, it's not fun, right? It's just not a fun process. So big believer in communicating and being open and telling people your feelings and what they want to do. That can be as simple as, hey, it's date night with your wife, and I'm like, hey, let's go to the Drake concert. My wife's like, I want to go see Ali Wong. And I'm like, wait a second, we got to pick one here. Like, where are we going? Right? So it's all about figuring out, or meeting in the middle, I think is important.
Yeah, and we just started doing that, like having date nights and like making time, because like if you don't put in your calendar, it's kind of like not important to you in a way.
Yeah. You got to get it
that time.
You got to get it on the calendar. You got to do it. And look, my 3 kids are in sleepaway camp. And my wife and I, over the last 3 weeks, have gotten more time to kind of redate each other than we have I'm married 17 years, but I haven't had our house to ourselves in 10 years, right? So my oldest kid is 10. So at first we were like, what do we do? Like, where is everybody? And now it's like, oh, where are we going tonight? What are we doing tomorrow? So it's been really fun. So while you have this time, you're not getting it back, right? So you should absolutely do your date nights and plan events and do what you can, because life changes all the time. One, based on things that you're planning for it to change, but other times life happens and you're not planning, and things happen unexpectedly, for better or for worse, and you're going to regret if you don't do it. You got to do it. It's the bottom line.
Yeah, that's good advice, and something I'll definitely take home. I want to look at like your business, because there's there's way more, but like if I simplify it down to kind of like the 3 stages, like becoming like the high performance salesperson, moving from the high performing salesperson to a high performing leader, which is what you became, and what you're passing now is, and now you're expanding into different markets. That's kind of like the 3rd stage. So speaking to like the lenders and realtors today, and let's look at the high performing sales side. It's a very tough market for everybody. What are a few things that either you did early on in your business that really like paid off in dividends to build your business, or and what are you doing now to kind of go back to like those basics or double down?
Yeah, I mean, great question. I think I'm always a big believer on basics when you can do it. And I think that when people are super busy, they don't go back to the basics because they don't need to, right? So in mortgage land, it's always you're either too busy, like height of the pandemic, everyone's refinancing, you're too busy, and or it's, hey, I'm slow, I need to get busy again, right? So it's all about the balance of activities is what I would tell people. So I'm a big proponent of seeing people keep repeating, kind of repeating things that work, how to get in front of people, and the more times you see the person, the better, and the more that they're going to remember you. If you only meet a person once and then you're gone, maybe you'll think of them, but most likely you won't. So I'm a big believer in going out there to join things in the community, to volunteer, to kind of stay top of mind. And I think that is super helpful in markets that are very tough, is just to stay consistent, right? I live in a condo building in the West Village, and I have one or two realtors that consistently are mailing me a postcard and mailing me a postcard. And you know what? I know who they are now. I didn't know them before. They never called me, introduced me, but now I hear their name and see what they're doing, and they send these big brochures, and they're in color, and they're beautiful. And they keep sending it, right? I'm not replying to it. There's no call of action right now, but continuously doing the activities will always pay off. Do the work, let the work take care of you. And it takes time, right? This is not an overnight business, and it's very hard, but it is a business that's a great business where you can meet great people and you can really build something.
So what specific activities are you doing?
So right now, a good question. Right now, I'm in the planning stage for fall. So for summer, I've been enjoying it a little too much, right? I got the kids
Time
away,
away, yeah.
wife going out. But no, I'm doing a lot of planning. So one, I've been doing my continuing education because I have a lot of that to do for licensing for a mortgage license. And then I've been planning. I've been planning on what markets we're going into, how many people we need, how are we going to recruit, who wants to join, what relationships I have in each market. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm also brushing up on some different product guidelines that I typically wasn't doing or targeting, where before it wasn't my main focus. And I'm also working on helping some other people that are brand new to my team to kind of look at what are they doing? How do we get their numbers bigger? How do we introduce them to more people in their market? And I'm constantly reading, by the way. I'm a big proponent on reading industry news, and that's magazines, that's print, that is internet stuff. I just feel like education is key, and the more I learn, and even people's names. I'll read an article, and someone's name will come up in an article. I'll reach out to them. I'll say, hey, saw your name in the article, just wanted to introduce myself. And you never know. We're in a business where you never know where someone's going to be like, oh, I have a friend who needs a mortgage. Or, oh, by the way, maybe my next door neighbor is looking for a home equity line of credit. So just constantly still being active, reaching out to people where you're not making your business kind of stuck in place, right? It's not that I've done X amount of loans, I'm at this level. I'm keep on going. I want to meet new people. I want to meet new referral partners. I want to meet younger people. I want to meet older people. And I want to go into different markets because I think that my team and I are really good at what we do. And doing a good job just builds a bigger business. There's real estate agents that will only do business. They have 3 offers and 1 offer is from me with my name on the pre-approval, and there's two others. My name's going to stand out because they know in this market, we close, baby. That's what we do. We will close, right? If I say it's going to happen, 99% of the time, it will happen. And, and the biggest part behind it is I care about it. I care about every transaction, and I don't treat it like, oh, it's just another loan. I put myself in the customer's shoes every single time.
Nice. And yeah, uh, I think education and like knowledge, spending the time to like research and really get to know like something, whether it's like a product or service, the market is super important. Do you spend time like each day, or is it kind of like sporadic how you read?
Yeah, so I read every day. I'm reading something constantly, and that's industry news. That's, it could even be about, the Fed. It could be about, new capital requirements for banks. I'm always read every day. I'm reading. Not all day. Don't get me wrong. But
Yeah.
just like everything else, you wake up, you check your phone. I'm checking mortgage news first. I'm checking my text messages first, a second. So mortgage news first, text message, then email is kind of in my is my pecking order. But I just think there's so much stuff going on, and everyone asks the same question: when are rates going to go down, right? And it's like nobody knows is the right answer. But I can educate myself on where they are now, what the Fed is saying, where inflation is today, what the jobless numbers are today. And these are all things that are part of my business that you need to be educated to speak to customers on. And it's super important.
It's kind of like an idea bank where you like if you're continually like reading things or seeing things, you're just building up this information, almost like how a doctor will sit there and ask you all of these questions before they like give you a prescription.
Yeah.
And it's just because they're getting that information so that, for example, like when you read all this information on the mortgage, the Fed, different products, you're in a conversation and you could just pull something out and it feels like it's out of nowhere, but it's because you've spent the time to kind of put that into your head.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
100%. Yeah.
So, when, for example, like the lenders that on your team that you're working with, like, what are you specifically working with them? Like, let's speak to like any lender in this market, and they just want to grow their business, kind of like your team members. What are you helping them through, and what should they be doing?
Yeah. I think the most important thing is, knowing your guidelines, right? I don't like taking customers, and you should never take a customer and say, I think I can do it, right? If you're telling somebody you think you can, that means that you're not sure. That's number one. And you need to be sure, right? The people that work with me don't work with me because I think because I'm a maybe guy. I'm not a maybe guy. I'm a yes man all day long, which means that if I say yes, it's going to happen, right? So we want to make sure that people that are out there and lenders in the mortgage business, you don't want to throw something against the wall and then it not happen, right? Because those people are not going to refer you to again. And I always tell people you can do 9 things right, but as soon as you do one thing wrong, that's the problem. That one thing you do wrong spreads way faster than the 9 things you do right. So you want to make sure as much as possible that on every transaction you're dotting I's and crossing T's. You need to know the guidelines. That's most important. You need to understand the different kind of properties, or there's issues with the properties. Where are you lending? And is there an issue with it? Could it get an FHA loan? Will it qualify for a VA loan? Why or why not? And I'm a big proponent of seeing properties just out there so you have a general idea of what the market's like. I think is super important. But for lenders out there right now who are in a difficult market, use the time to your advantage. Don't sit at your desk all day and just complain how slow you are. Get out of the office, right? Like get away from your computer, hit the streets, go to an open house. Pick a list of 10 or 15 people that you don't know that you want to know. Maybe you'll go 1 for 15, and that's the goal. Just keep doing activities, and that's what I would say.
So, is that how you met Ryan Serhant, or how did you
Ryan,
meet him?
so yeah, Ryan, I think of Ryan as a personal friend. I don't know if he'd say the same, but I've known Ryan for, it's got to be 15 years. So
Oh, nice. So you've known him for a long time.
I've known him for a long time. And again, you want to kind of, as a loan officer, as a person, you always want to kind of try and surround yourself with people that are doing really cool things or doing things that are just good people or things that are better than you, right? I talk to top loan officers that do more business than I do all the time. And I think it's super important, right? They do.
Yep.
I want to know, what are you doing differently, right? So for people out there that have those questions, pick up the phone. People may reply, they may answer your questions, they may help you, and always be learning is important. But back to Ryan. So yeah, I've known Ryan for, it's got to be 15 years. It's been a while. He's a great person. There's nothing more I can say. If you don't know him or you don't know who he is, I mean, he is. I mean, he's changing the way people do business, and overall, I mean, he's just a good person and he's a good friend.
Nice. And so, when you talked about like going to see the properties, like knowing them like the back of your hand, does that tie into like first? I guess did you specifically and intentionally like go after condos and co-ops for a reason? Like, did you niche down?
Not really, just the market that
No.
I was in, right? Just where I live. So comes with the territory is the bottom line.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but now I'm expanding to markets with our single family houses. So super excited about that.
Nice. Okay. Um, so when it comes to like getting to know the property and like doing that, like is the biggest thing to you like going to see it or going to uh, speak to like the realtors, other lenders, like learning from them? Like,
Yeah, so when I see properties or go out in the field, I mean, I have a couple objectives, right? So one is to spend time with the agent, right? Because the agents are out there and they're our referral partners, right? They're the ones who are saying, hey, call Brian, right? So it's nice to see people every once in a while, right? You don't have to just be the person that's behind the desk. And yes, people love when I answer my phone in one ring or reply instantly, which I'm known to do. But I like to see people. I'm a people person. I want to talk to people. I want to see how they're doing, what's happening in life, what do they think of the market. So talking to people and seeing people in person is great. I also, when I look at the properties, I want to know the inventory, right? I want to know what's on the market. We work with a lot of people that are investors. And they say, what do you think of this property, Brian? I said, well, I have no idea. I never saw it, or no, I don't know where it is. In the markets that I work in, I want to know. I want to be able to give you directions. I want to know the difference that this street is versus this street, right? I want to be an expert in my markets. And when I first started in the business, I was all over the place. I would do a loan here, there, anywhere I can find a loan. And I think that being consistent and being kind of in one market is how I started. I got to know all of the people who were doing business in the market, right? So you knew all the
yeah.
agents, I knew the attorneys, and just it kept coming a pattern. I was like, oh, nice to see your name again. Nice to see your name again. And oh, you have this listing, And I think just being able to be known in a market and being consistent. 19 years in the same market, it's a long time. So for people that are not in my market and don't know who I am, to me, I'm like, well, what am I doing wrong? Why don't I know these people? And how do I get them to know me? And I continuously do that. Is it, Instagram? Is it ads? Is it billboards? Is it paper marketing? Is it just picking up the phone and calling people and say, hey, by the way, I'm Brian Scott Cohen and I do mortgages. Nice to meet you. And I'm always thinking of ways to kind of get out there.
So there's kind of like funny jokes between like the realtor and like the lending side. For example,
Sure.
like realtors say like, oh, we don't want like lenders just to come and give us like donuts and pitch their products and like be annoying.
Yeah.
So what did you do differently that probably helped you build those relationships differently than others?
I think I'm a really good donut maker, by the way. Like I can really cook donuts. But but seriously, I think just being there for them for whatever it needs, right? And that could be an open house or beyond that. But I think the bigger part is building the relationship and being a friend, right? Like if I got married again today, half of my wedding guests would be real estate agents because I treat them as friends, right? And I think that's a really big part that kind of gets lost right now with all these modern mortgage companies and click a button and
Yep.
don't talk to the mortgage person, and mortgage people are less important because people are just going to call the 1-800 number of their bank anyway. I'm old school, man. I don't believe in that. I believe in relationships. I believe in, if there's a problem, I want to take ownership of it. I want you to call me and say, Brian, I'm not referring you again. You just messed up this deal, right? Or if there is a problem, they're working with, that online lender or whatever it may be. I want to be the first person they think of and say, you got to call Brian, right? Like you have to call him, and you should have went with him in the first place, even though his rate was 0.001% higher than the other person's, right? But that's what we deal with all the time. So my advice is build a relationship. It's rates are average, of course, super important, but there's going to be a time where your rates are going to be better, or you'll be on an even playing field. And I think that building the relationship is the most important thing. It's easier said than done, right? Some people have their own person, they have their relationships, and it takes time, and it's just about doing things consistently.
So, kind of trying to put myself in the shoes of a lender, like a new one, like if I said, well, what do I say? Like, how do I reach out?
Yeah.
Could you kind of walk me through that?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it's a little different for me because I have kind of like a resume, right? I'm for 19 years. I'm top in the country. I'm blah 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 blah. I think as a new loan officer, it's good to partner with people, right? Join a team is not a bad option or idea at all. I would tell you that half the battle is reaching out. The worst someone's gonna say is no, right? Yeah. So you have to be ready to make those calls, be ready for rejection. The amount of times that I get rejected, or people that don't want my rate, or don't want to have lunch with me or eat my cupcake that I brought, it's a lot. But there is a point where we become important and we become experts in the market. They're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember that guy, or I heard of that guy, and they'll hopefully reach out. But for new people in the business, I think learn your guidelines, work your initial sphere of influence, your family, your friends, people you went to high school with, people you went to college with, write an article, make a video. Maybe there's an educational video that you can share with your network and gets passed on, and maybe it goes viral. Who knows? But I think you have to do a little of everything in order to be successful. There's not one magic formula that I can say, oh, loan officer, all you have to do is this and it's magic. I wish I had that, but 19 years of hard work, 7 days a week, eventually pays off.
Yeah, it's not one thing that kind of builds something. It's the team, it's the collective. So like, it's everything that you're doing to build your business that came together to build it to where it is today.
Absolutely. And the key, surround yourself with good people, right? Get a mentor, talk to people on scenarios. I mean, it's super important. You want to ask people who've been in your shoes, who've done this before, who've gone through conflicts or challenges. Very important that you are aligned with people that you're working with and people that can make you better.
Yeah, I'm huge on mentoring, is like learning, because it just speeds up learning from someone who's kind of gone through it. How did you go from like a high performance salesperson to a leader? Because that transition can sometimes be pretty tough.
Yeah. So I'm working on that now. So I've always just been salesperson, right? So that's all I've kind of really done. And now, just based on the market, I'm understanding what I think I need to do to kind of expand my business and to continue to be busy in a market that is not busy, right? So for me, I'm excited by it, right? Because when the market changed and rates doubled and all of a sudden things got slower, I wasn't like, oh, I'm done, I'm going to throw in the towel. I'm like, well, there's still transactions happening. What can I do more of? So maybe you're working more, maybe you're traveling more, maybe you're meeting more people. But I feel that constantly having ideas and thinking what continuously keeps my mind going, keeps me wanting to grow. And I'm excited for other people to see what I can do to try and help them bring their business to the next level, right? It's going to be super exciting when I have someone who does 1 or 3 or 5 loans a month, and all of a sudden I can get them to 10, all of a sudden double their business, right?
Yep.
So I'm excited for people who want to learn. I'm excited to go into and be present in different markets where, there are single family houses, right? Or there's different kind of collateral. And I'm super excited to get to work with companies and referral partners that are building as well, right? So I'm excited about it. Look forward to meeting new people, and look forward to having some great people join my team that can come on your podcast one of these days and be like, wow, Brian Scott Cohen, he took me from a $5 million producer to a $30 million producer in 12 months, and he's really a good guy, and his methods work. That's the goal.
That'd be awesome.
I agree.
So you mentioned like expanding into different markets, having to spend time like with planning. Like, what are you having to learn, or what skills are you like new skills are you're having to pick up doing all this different stuff?
I think just learning what people like loan officers, like real estate agents, what they want from each other, right? I think that's part of the balance is, hey, why are you not happy where you are, or why would you want to join a team, or what can I do to help you? I'm always a big proponent on solving problems. And there's times that I can't always solve a problem. My wife tells me like, hey, you can't solve this. Like, well, let me try. She's like, no, I just want to vent. I don't want you to solve it. I'm like, oh, okay. So
Yeah.
I'm immediately like let's solve a problem versus just let someone talk. And I got to learn the balance of both. But for me, in the other markets, it's different to learn that, one, New York's an attorney state. So the buyer has an attorney, the seller has an attorney, the lender has an attorney. Sometimes the building co-op has a transfer agent or an attorney. So a lot of
There's none
attorneys,
here.
yeah, not where you are, right? It's realtors doing the contract, and there's an escrow company, so it's very different. So I'm learning that kind of stuff. I'm learning the differences on closing costs. Closing costs are different all over the place. I'm learning, different nuances, like what's the problem. Like, in Brooklyn, New York, the problem is there's either no permit, or there's an illegal deck, or a 2-family house has 5 kitchens. I'm learning, in Florida, it's, are we in the flood zone, or are we not in the flood zone? Can we get flood insurance? Do we need flood insurance? Or, certain things on, looking out for, hey, do you have wind coverage? Or I'm looking out in other markets, how long does it take to close? It's 21 days in California. I'm like, that's great. We can close in 21 days. In New York, it's the opposite. It's, hey, Brian, can we get a 90-day rate lock? In California, it's like, we need to close in 21 days. No one's asking for a 90-day rate lock. So just learning on what makes each market and what the problems
Nuances are.
Yeah, absolutely. So learning those things, I think, is super helpful. And just, again, I like to see what you can buy in New York City for $1 million versus $1 million in, Miami or in St. Augustine, or different parts of the markets. For me, I love seeing, the local places. I love meeting the people and seeing the differences, the transportation. I love all of it.
So where are you expanding? Is it all parts of Florida?
So yes is the answer. Yeah. So we're expanding all over Florida, and it's a great market, right? So it's a market. There's a lot of transactions happening, and there's a market where people from New York are going to Florida and other parts. A lot of clients that I have migrated down south, and it's been great. It's been a good part of my business, but I don't have any local representatives there. It's always been me doing the business there. But I feel like I have so many connections with real estate agents, companies we work with, that I need to build further with, and that's with talented people.
Was it hard to make the decision to expand? And like,
Yeah. So for 19 years, I never expanded. It was just me, and I didn't think of like, hey, I want to be a leader and I want to help other people get better. It was always just about me. And I think in this market, in order for me to continuously, be busy and continue to grow my name and my brand, I need to add people and to go into other markets. So I'm thought of just not here in one market, but we're thought of in other markets, and we can show other agents and other loan officers why we're so great at what we do and how we do it and how they can do it as well.
nice. So you got into the business in 2004. Of course, the big recession happened in 2008, not shortly after.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that was a tough time. Looking at now, if you could talk back if you could speak to your younger self going through that tough time and building that business, what would you say?
It's kind of interesting. So in 2008 was a terrible market, right? Banks were going under, and it was, a mortgage meltdown, and it was terrible. To be honest, on my end, I think I did a really good job during that time. It's kind of crazy. So in my 19 years of doing this, up until really this year, last year, I never had a time where my business didn't continue to go up. So if I did, 20 loans in 1 year, the next year was 30, the next year was 40, 50, 100, 200, 300,000. It's never gone down. That was including in 2008. 2008 was actually a very good time for me in the mortgage business for two reasons. So one, interest rates came down, which is very different than we have today. So in 2008, prices came down and interest rates came down. So we were pretty busy, I would say. And at the time, I was at a great institution that had great products, and we were lending where other places were, going under. There was a website, it was like implode.com. There was some website that showed how many mortgage companies and lenders were going out of business at that time.
Jeez.
And I was lucky to be, it was crazy. There's hundreds of them. And I was lucky to be where I was, and they were consistent in lending and helping homeowners at the time. So to my younger self, I would say, good job on not quitting your job and trying to go into something else and being nervous about, are people still going to buy homes, right? Because people were very nervous and, unemployment was high. I just think, I think I did a good job of sticking it out and staying consistent and continued to kind of keep my blinders on and just got to go forward.
Nice. So keep pushing through even when
Through
it's
the
tough.
times. Yeah, just keep going and just, don't get discouraged. That was a really tough time in the market, and we've been through many other tough times, since then, this market, COVID.
Yep. COVID.
Many different things that we've gone through in the markets, and it's just about navigating and getting through and to the other side, and hopefully we'll get there again.
So what would you probably attribute most? Would it be just that tenacity and the persistence to push through?
Yeah, I think myself is self-motivation is always what I tell people. There's nobody, on my back. I mean, the CEO of my company is a great guy. He's a super motivated guy, has a lot of energy. But he's not bothering me, right? There's nobody like, oh, Brian, you need to do this. It's about me, right? I'm a 100% commission person. And it's about what I want to get out of my job, right? How hard do I want to work? How many people do I want to meet, right? And I think for myself, it's just there's always been a constant kind of fire inside of me of wanting to do more for some reason. And someone asked me, I interviewed a mortgage coach right before the pandemic where things started to get slow and I wasn't used to it. I met a mortgage coach, super great guy. And he's like, you're doing great. He's like, why do you want to do more loans? And I was like, it's a really good question. And I told him, I said, look, I just like to be busy and I like to meet more people and I want to continue to kind of build this brand and this one day empire of how we became a household name in mortgages. And he was like, okay. But it took me a little while to understand the why behind what I wanted to do.
Nice. Well, I want to commend you for pushing boundaries at every level of your business, being a leader in the mortgage industry, almost like you could say like the Ryan Serhant of mortgages, but it's like the Brian Scott Cohen of mortgages.
It's a compliment. Thank you.
What does being a world-class leader mean to you?
I always just believe in doing the right thing, right? I think that, it started, and I didn't always do the right thing. I was a kid, I was a teenager, I went to college, I had a good time, and I'm not going to tell you anything different. But when it comes to dealing with people and their money and their families, I'm a big believer in, always doing the right thing. And when I'm thinking of expanding and going into leadership, I really care about people. Like anyone who works for me, I want them to be happy. I want them to succeed, and that's with me or with somebody else. and I truly care about them, what they're doing now, what they're going to do, what their goals are. And I think that's important. And I've always felt that when upper management at companies, I know if they either like me or they don't like me, or they care about me or they don't care about me. And people that work with me, I hope that they feel that, I care about them personally besides work. Work is work, it's a job, and, you need to pay your bills. But there's a life outside work, and I want people that I'm part of to know that I care about their kids or their goals or their hobbies, or if they're sick or they're, like, whatever it may be. I'm all about people, and I like to see them happy as much as I can do. And as a leader, you want that to be passed down to other people. As my team continues to build, I want the other people on my team to care about other people on a personal level besides work, right?
Yep.
My processor has to process. I have to get the W-2. My underwriter's got to review it, right? My appraiser's got to do their job. But at the end of the day, we're all people. We all got to help each other, the bottom line.
Yeah, and I think your numbers are just a reflection of the people underneath you and what you've built. So I think it definitely shows that you have been that amazing leader, and you'll continue to. So
Thank you. We hope so, man. More things to come. Hopefully a little bit bigger.